far too large to rightfully be called a sword. It was larger, thicker, heavier, and cruder than any normal blade. By all accounts, it was no more than a hulking mass of iron.
Doc, you can't just call all tabaxis furries. Hello, everybody. I am Brill, the Archlich, and I'm coming to you live from parts unknown here on DumpStat. and here it is funny to imagine somebody like having a hysterical breakdown over the concept of furries. This is the level 12 fighter who inevitably slay me, one of those two. Doc, thank you for joining me once again.
You know, I feel like this episode's going in a very special way. I'm having feelings that I've never felt before, Brill. It's a little weird.
Wow. Okay. I like to think, I mean, we're past Pride Month, but we are very much, very inclusive here at DumpStat.
Yeah, I'm down for it.
I am really excited today just because we are covering two of the domains that I think most people would consider the powerhouse domains for a cleric. Mm-hmm. We are covering Tempest for me, and what are you covering, my friend?
I'm covering the Grave Domain.
Ooh.
And yeah, both of these domains are really, really cool. They were added. They are not in the core like 5e player's handbook, but both of them were added onto the game. I think in Xanathar's guide.
No, you are mistaken.
I am wrong on that.
Grave is put in for Xanathar's guide. I have it right here. Tempest, interestingly enough, is an original player's handbook domain.
Really?
It is OG. Yeah.
Huh.
And I think due to the nature of how cool it is and how much elemental stuff we got after the player's handbook with Princes of Apocalypse and many other just new fun spells we got from Xanathar's guide, most people think that the big elemental class must happen when that elemental boom happened in lore.
Gotcha.
But as a matter of fact, it did not. And due to it being kind of prior the elemental lore boom that I just mentioned, the Tempest class has a couple of odd little quirks to it that one might not first think of, but we're about to get into all that.
Yeah.
Up top, I did want to tell a little quick story about clerics. Last week, you and I covered Trickery Domain. Well, not last week. It could be 1,000 years ago. Who knows when this goes up?
Yeah.
I'm a lich. Time doesn't mean anything.
And a lich in quarantine, so time really doesn't mean anything.
It really does not. Well, fun fact for liches, we're always kind of in quarantine. Very rarely do we ever, hang out. But yeah, it's a little bit rougher. Now my minions have to stand 6 feet away from me with mask on.
Well, I mean, hey, it's made reach weapons super popular since they have a reach of 10 feet. So spears are really in style now. Let me tell you, spears are the way to go.
The classic pole arms to go through a dungeon, like in Tomb of Horrors, that whole thing of where you'd have a pole arm in 2nd edition to push around for traps, I think that's just become now I just do it for people just to, they're over there. Fantastic. Yeah. All my minions wear masks. It's a PR nightmare. The story I wanted to tell, however, is we covered Trickery Domain, and I recently got to DM a Trickery Domain duel, a clash, if you will, between a character, a PC who I've been playing with for a very long time. The player's a great guy, and he's playing Meligdin, the dwarf.
From Meglidin's Island, right?
Right. He's a Trickery Domain cleric.
That was such a dumb joke.
It's beautiful. I think it's an art form to make dumb jokes.
What? I need to leave. That was too terrible. See ya. Bye.
You're good. Come back when you're ready.
All right. Anyways, continue.
Yeah. So
continue.
With that being said, so he's a Trickery Domain who has actually taken that domain and pushed it towards a megachurch preacher for his god. Yeah, it's actually a lot of fun. It's very Joel Osteen about it.
It's great.
Just from conversation, his party goes to a temple for glitter gold, and they meet one of the head priests of said temple for glitter gold. And Brother Hop Hands is the gnome's name. And what happens when two trickery domains who come from different angles of trickery domain meet? Well, it turns out they don't really like each other. This NPC Hop Hands is of Gar Glitter Gold, which means his trickery domain is much more Fey-like than Con Man. It's far more closer to Bugs Bunny. They start to rub each other the wrong way. They start throwing racial insults at each other between gnomes and dwarves. And soon, Megalodon bursts in and says, I challenge you to a cleric duel. You and me. And Brother Hop Hands rips off his many, many robes, and it reveals that he is jacked beyond belief. And he's like, you're about to get gnomed, brother. And that sparked a great NPC player fight where the other players tried to stay out of it, but they also tried to make money off of the fight in the middle of the street.
Mm-hmm.
This is a gnomish village, so there was a lot of gnomes rooting for the hometown hero. And I will say Brother Hopham slowly went from Bugs Bunny to like Ric Flair. There was a lot of wooing, but and he's kind of like a mix of like the hometown hero and like the star athlete and a Looney Tunes character. But it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Pegasi were summoned, spiritual weapons were thrown at each other. Eventually, Megalodon was victorious, but only barely. And it was just fun to see what happens when you have this domain that is so wide in variety clash with itself.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed DMing it. And I want to throw that out there for other DMs. All of these classes, or what I should say, domains that we're covering are vast in how they can be played and how they can be DM'd. So when you look at a cleric, don't just think support. Sometimes that's a protagonist that needs to get gnomed, which is really exciting. So I just wanted to say that. I thought it was a lot of fun, and I think people can enjoy it.
Yeah.
Now,
that sounds fantastic.
It was a lot of fun. A lot of radiant damage and insults, and a lot of flipping each other off. So, and plus, anytime you can NPC a jacked gnome who's, wooing like Ric Flair and getting his body all covered in glitter and sparkles to get prepped for a battle is a good time in D&D. It's really hard to fuck that up.
That's fantastic. Yeah.
The dwarf won though, which I thought was exciting. He almost didn't. And I don't think there's any resurrection for either of them. So in that case, I want to toss to you quickly, Grave, the Dead.
Yes.
Start us off.
Yeah.
Talk to us about Grave Domain in a mechanical sense.
So the Grave Domain is a really interesting domain that sets up somewhat like the Life Cleric, except that you get different set of spells and a different set of abilities, where the Life Cleric is all about healing and keeping people up and going. The Grave Domain is a little bit more of the, how do I say, a death's door bouncer, right? He lets some people in, keeps some people out. So there's the character Caduceus Clay in Critical Role is probably like the most prominent example that I can think of.
Right.
And I'll get to spells in just a second. But the main thing with Grave Domain is their Circle of Mortality. And I'm going to compare it a little bit to Life Cleric because some people say like, well, it's just a different Life Cleric. It's not, right? Life Clerics get a little boost to all of their healing. Circle of Mortality, when you cast a healing spell on a creature that is at 0 hit points,
right,
you roll maximum health on your hit dice. So if you get to roll 3d6 for that healing spell and that character or creature is at 0 hit points, you roll 6 as you roll the number of the beast. Apparently, you roll those 6s automatically.
The number of the beast. Yes.
Yep. D&D is of the devil. And I don't know. That's just an awesome ability because one, it's very powerful, right? Being able to just max out your healing like that is fantastic. But also, having the limiter that you can only do that when that creature's at 0 hit points, that adds a really interesting game mechanic. You may have to kind of assess the risks of, what are we fighting? Is this guy going to die if this dragon breathes on him because he's at 2 health points? Or can he survive that hit and I can heal him for maximum health, right? I may heal him a lot less, and it may be a really bad decision to heal him right now when he's still alive compared to if I heal him while he's dead. There's a lot of thought that goes into that with that circle of immortality, and that's a really cool mechanic where...
Doc.
Yeah, what's up?
Doc, did you hear that?
Wait, what?
Oh my God! In the lair! It's the Undertaker! He heard you talking about the Grave Cleric! Doc, you gotta get out of here! Go!
No!
Go! Oh my God! The Phenom has picked him up! Oh my God! He put him through the chair! Oh my God! A flaming table! Oh my God! 6 goblins in an attic! Oh my God! Oh my God! The tombstone! Oh shit! Oh my God! Doc, are you still? Get out of here, Undertaker! Doc, are you still with me? Doc! I'm a lich. I don't have any revive spells.
It's okay. I've got second wind. Hang on. Oh, jeez.
Holy shit!
Oh, I'm just glad I have that ability.
Does that happen every time you talk about Grave Cleric? The Undertaker shows up?
I don't know. That was my... I've only started talking about Grave Clerics just now. My passive perception isn't the best.
Oh, it's abysmal.
Jesus Christ.
Can we get some better security in my lair? From parts unknown, my ass. Jesus.
Did you just keep the Undertaker down here? Is that a...
I don't... listen, we usually have
now
about...
that he's retired, is he just living down here with you? Are you his mom? Is that...
First of all, I can neither confirm or deny I'm the mother of the Undertaker. Second of all, I have no idea why he's here. Frankly, we have 2 bugbear bouncers, and they are fucking fired.
Is that because you still have Joe Rogan tied up?
Shut the fuck up about Joe Rogan. He's mine. Anyways, so tell us more about the circle of mortality.
Sure. Well, so all it is basically, you get to balance that. Oh my God. You get to balance those mechanics with each other. So it adds a layer of complexity to the game and the decision making, right? Because Dungeons and Dragons is a game about making decisions. And so by adding a more complex decision to your spell casting that is beyond, do I cast the spell or not? I think that's really cool. And I think that playing into that is really neat. As far as the other abilities go, the other abilities are cool. You get Eyes of the Grave. 60 feet, you basically see undead that aren't completely covered up by total cover. So basically, you just get to see an aura of undead from people around you.
That's actually kind of big, though.
Yeah.
When you break that down as an ability that you just initially have, how many zombies are you going to fight early on?
Right.
Countless. I think that's actually a very good mechanical thing to have.
You get so many things that are undead-ish, like liches, vampires. Like, there's a lot of things that are undead-esque that may not just appear undead. So being able to just be like, I'm going to sit here, but I'm going to activate Eyes of the Grave and see what happens. And you get to use it number of times equal to your wisdom modifier, minimum of once. So like, yeah, if you're just sitting in a tavern, it's like, I'm going to pop Eyes of the Grave, see what I see, That can be really interesting, where like, oh yeah, there's that guy in the corner that's staring at you that is, got kind of an aura on him. It's like, ooh, like, what's going on there, right?
Now you can hunt down ghouls and vampires and any kind of undead trying to masquerade themselves in, an orphanage.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a really, really good one. Even though at first it's like, yeah, it's okay. Like, no, it's pretty good. Especially if you've got a DM that likes to improv, kind of adding set pieces here and there. That can give you a lot of insight into the world around you. Sentinel at Death's Door. This is kind of like one of those things where you let some people in, you keep some people out. This one keeps people out. So let's say one of your pals gets hit by a critical hit. DM's like, oh, that's natural 20. Then you say, no, it's not. And as a reaction, you basically cancel the critical hit. So there's no extra damage that happens. And any effect that happens because of a critical hit, like if your DM likes to use custom tables or just improvise a effect that happens because of the critical hit, it doesn't happen. That one's really cool because like I like the thought that it adds a layer of role playing where some DMs like to add those extra effects that happen. And I like how this one's like, hey, if you do the extra effects, it doesn't happen.
And crit stealing, I think, is the rudest thing you could possibly do.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's up there.
Yeah. So when you do that to a DM, it's going to be frustrating, but at the same time, your pals are going to be really thankful that you have this ability. Yeah, so then you get potent spell casting as well, which basically you just add your wisdom modifier to the damage you deal with any cleric cantrip.
Which is nice.
So that one happens at 8th level. 9 levels later at 17th, you get Keeper of Souls, which is a really good one for higher levels, which is kind of interesting. I feel like a lot of higher level abilities are just kind of like, I could see this being used. But this one, if you kill a monster within a certain amount of time, within 60 feet of you, you activate this right before they die. And when they die, you choose a creature within like a certain range of you that basically regains hit points equal to the enemy's number of hit dice. So yeah, you take down a dragon. That dragon probably has like 10 plus hit dice. So they get 10 hit points back. Or, there's an unconscious person that's on the ground. They get 10 hit points back. It's a little thing, but it's, oh, wait, no. You can use this feature only if you aren't incapacitated. My mistake. So you can use it on a creature that is incapacitated as long as it's not you.
No, you can't do it when you're knocked out.
Right.
Is basically the argument there.
Right. But that one's really cool, I think. It's a little thing, but it's also it's a cool thing to me.
Well, that could also, that could be the make or break difference when it comes to going down a fight.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing about Grave Cleric that I think people kind of forget. It is, mechanically at least, not in the sense of a cleric that is just dishing out pain all the time, but it kind of one of those powerhouse support classes in the strangest ways.
Yeah.
Especially when you look at its spell lists.
Yeah.
Bane, False Life, Revivify, Vampiric Touch, which is fantastic.
And Blight is actually one of my favorites. Blight is really cool if you're fighting plant creatures, because Blight by itself, if the target fails their saving throw, they take 8d8 necrotic damage. But if they are a plant creature or a magical plant of some kind, then they have disadvantage on that saving throw, and they get hit for maximum damage. 8 times 8 is 64? That's a lot of damage, So Blight's a nice one if you're going through the jungles of Cholt or something where there's going to be, killer plants and things.
Oh, absolutely.
A lot of these spells that are on the spell list, you've also got Death Ward, which is nice against Power Word Kill. That's a nice defense one against that.
Oh, yeah.
Anti-Life Shell is odd, but it's kind of good. It's a decent defense spell. And then Raise Dead, of course, that's a good one. A lot of these spells clerics already have.
Right.
But what's nice about the spell list is that these are automatically prepared, right? So you don't have to spend some of your precious knowledge slots to prepare Gentle Repose, Rave, Enfeeblement. Some of these other ones that are healing focused or trade damage for heal focused, you just have them prepared. And that's really nice.
God damn, I forgot you get Rave and Field and of Enfeeblement.
Oh, it's so good. I love Rave of Enfeeblement. I think that's probably one of the more underrated spells. Basically just causing a creature to have half damage with strength attacks and stuff like that. Barbarians, whoever, whatever, really, really, really handy to have. So I really like the spell lists that they have. The spells themselves are good. They're not amazing. It's not an amazing spell list, but you have all of those prepared. And that's really nice, is having these good spells always prepared. So that way you can put the really good spells in your prepared list.
It's a well-rounded domain in the sense of mechanics. When it comes to concepts and what you're building off of for a Grave domain, you have quite a bit to work with. I think what you said earlier about them being the bouncer to death is a lot closer than what people might immediately think. I think when people think of Grave Cleric, they think of, oh, you walk into a room with a black hood and you just annihilate everybody who's in there, which isn't exactly what the class is like. It's way closer to Anubis weighing the scales of your heart. It's way more a person who strangely respects death.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a mortician, which I guess is more implied with the grave than anything else.
Yeah, and you know me, and you know that I enjoy the Raven Queen. For everyone who's out there, my patron deity is the Raven Queen. And I love the aspect of the Raven Queen where, like she's, from the Shadowfell, right? She kind of has her reign in the Shadowfell. But her job is not to kill people, but it's more just to regulate who's coming and going. And I think that's kind of a cool take that you can do with the Grave Cleric. Someone who is also, and this is inspired partially by the character they encounter in Critical Role, Caduceus, who's more I'm kind of an arbitrator between life and death. Death is a part of life, and we're all going to encounter that, and I don't want to hinder that where it is necessary, or I want to hinder that when it's unnecessary. I think that's kind of a cool take, instead of life clerics being like, oh, heal everybody, everyone's happy and safe and fun. So that's exactly what life clerics sound like to me.
In that mortician spectrum, you can still do a lot. There is still a lot of role play opportunity, and it might not be as broad as you might say Trickery, like we did last week, where Trickery could be fucking anything. But I think Grave, from a roleplay aspect, depending on what deity you follow, is going to be interesting. Maybe you're a Grave Cleric who is more along the lines of, well, if it's your time, I got to let it happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or are you a Grave Cleric who's like, I am here to save you from the grave. That is what my death deity wants from me. I want to stop people from dying. Or completely on the other end, you might be a cleric's cleric in the sense that you are here to hunt undead, which is an unholy scourge. It's an abomination. It's very unnatural. Your deity could absolutely be like, your main goal in this life is to someday stop undead, whether that's destroying Orcus and maybe throwing his wand into the belly of a Tarrasque, or freeing a kingdom from the clutches of a lich. There's a lot of questing you could also do with a Grave Cleric.
Just to add one more bit to that, there is a lot of Grave Cleric content that is related to vampirism and stuff like that, especially with Blight, which technically in the Dungeons and Dragons lore, the blights, the plant life blights come from vampire blood, essentially. So you're dealing with a lot of vampire stuff too. Grave Clerics would make great vampire hunters, right?
Oh, Van Helsing.
Yeah, absolutely. If you take the Haunted One background that's from Curse of Strahd, and you take a Grave Cleric, you've got super duper a thematic cleric that is hunting vampires. Absolutely.
I think that's where a lot of its cooler elements lie. You do have to stretch a little bit more than Trickery Domain. However, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. It just means you have to be creative with your death.
Yeah.
I am going to brave the storm now. Tempest Domain.
Storms arising.
Oh, yes.
Sorry, I'm not gonna.
Rain falls. It's beautiful. Winds rip. And I think everybody knows what this cleric domain is. It is a wrathful hand of a weather storm deity. So we're talking your Zeus, your Thor, your Cord, your Talos, the Devourer. That is where we're coming from when we talk about this kind of domain. And I'm going to be completely upfront. The aesthetic of a storm and the power of Thor have always been a favorite of mine. Back when I was the little lich in undead school and Orcus was teaching, I loved the concept of a powerful god like Thor. I was really into Norse mythology, riding around on this big chariot driven by rams, just cracking fucking giant skulls with a thing called the Thunderer and the fucking Crusher.
Yep.
I loved Mjolnir. I love the Thor comics. I love the mythology behind him. And I have Nordic roots. So it really just all culminates in me loving bad weather.
Yeah.
Storms are a lot of fun. And aesthetically, it has always been the power of the gods. Towards the ancients, the power of the gods have come from storms. So when you're building a Tempest Cleric, you are going to be kind of harnessing that and bringing forth your stormy will upon the many denizens of Faerun, Forgotten Realms, or my new favorite, the mythic Odyssey of Theros.
Yeah.
I want to make a Tempest Sadar for Zeus so fucking bad.
Yeah.
Like really bad.
It's super thematic, and I love it.
Absolutely. Very Greek. However, Tempest and Satyrs might not mix as much as people want. Satyrs have kind of been built to just be bards. But hey, you don't need to be min-max, but you get it.
I mean, how about that Lionel race that they just added? That, I mean, like, not
That's
the best
true.
lineup of stats, but like, I mean, just a freaking amazing, powerful beast that's roaring and steering his enemies before he smites them with a hammer. Then, that sounds amazing.
A Thunder Maul or something? Absolutely. Yeah. So up top, Wrath of the Storm is your first level. You can thunderously rebuke attackers. When a creature is within 5 feet of you, you can see it hits you with an attack. You can use your reaction to cause the creature to make a dex saving throw. The creature takes 2d8 lightning or thunder damage. Whew. On a failed save, they take half as much. Immediately out of the gate, you are making thunder and lightning. So this is a weird thematic issue that some people have with the Tempest Cleric, which is in the little domain bio, they kind of describe the cleric to be a god of just chaotic storms, which in that description can involve tsunamis, tornadoes, but also volcanoes and earthquakes.
Yep.
However, the class itself is built around clearly storms.
Mm-hmm.
I've noticed that being an issue for some players who want to go, I want to be the volcanic eruption guy.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to have a little bit of a remedy for this a little bit later, but let me keep going.
Yeah. Love to hear it.
The Tempest Domain's Channel Divinity, Destructive Wrath. Starting at second level, you can use Channel Divinity to wield your power of the storm and unchecked Veracity. When you roll lightning or thunder damage, you can use Channel Divinity to deal maximum damage instead of rolling. So if you are sending anything, which is thunder or lightning damage, which, by the way, you will be doing all the time, that is going to stack incredibly well. So suddenly you are this powerhouse, this battery of lightning and thunder that can wipe out just about anything. It's a lot of fun once you get into the higher levels for this domain.
And just imagine stacking that on top of a crit, right? Like,
oh my God.
Already, you're dealing so much damage with the other attacks and stuff. I mean, you can also stack the 2d8 from Wrath of the Storm and you crit, and then you're like, yeah, I'm just going to channel Divinity Destructive Wrath. Just like, that's like high level paladin style smitten.
You are smitten.
Yeah.
At level 6, when you deal lightning damage to a large or small creature, you can also push it up to 10 feet away from you. So suddenly you have a power of crowd control whenever you're in a big hotspot. If you're fighting 40 goblins, it's nice to push a couple of them back from you. Or if you're just being overtaken by something like that, it's nice to have those, get away from me. I don't want to deal with you. And also, it shows more of that awesome power that you are kind of harnessing and rocketing through your body. Past that, your Divine Strike at level 8, your ability to infuse your weapon with divine energy. Basically, more and more thunder damage.
Yep.
And my favorite, and I think one of the most underrated but awesome things any of these domains get, your 17th level little perk is the Stormborn, which means that if you are outdoors or not underground, you can fly.
Yep.
You have a flying speed that is equal to your current walking speed. Nearly permanent fucking flight.
Yep.
So later levels, that's a very important thing to have. I personally think it's awesome to imagine a character who is so one with the chaotic energy of a storm to suddenly be lifted off the fucking ground and maneuver about the world. I don't know. For me, it's awesome.
Yeah.
But here's the issue.
Uh-oh.
So you have a lot of people looking at this and saying, okay, if I want to be Thor, awesome. But some of the lore wants me to do something else, or my spells aren't as close to what I want. Given that this was released OG with the player's handbook, the Tempest Cleric did not get all the epic shit that normally you would get with some of the new spells, correct?
Sure.
So, first level, you have Fog, Cloud, and Thunderwave. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Third level, Gust of Wind and Shatter. Makes sense.
Good spells. Yeah.
Good spells. Fifth level, Call Lightning, Sleet Storm. Makes sense.
Yeah.
7th and 9th is where we start to walk away a little bit. So 7th, you get Control Water, which is amazing.
Yeah.
I love Control Water.
Control Water. Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say there's 1,000 things you can do with it. What were you going to say?
I was going to say Control Water is one of those when you first read it, it's like, what am I going to do with this? But if you really read it and think about creative applications of how you could use it, it becomes really cool to use. And it's a nice one to have in your back pocket just to kind of be like, yeah, I control water and I do this instead. And it's like, it'll throw everybody by surprise.
Absolutely.
It's one of those where you maybe pull out once or twice in a campaign, but you're going to be really glad you had it when you use
that well near you to make a whirlpool on land.
Yeah.
Anyways, so, and then 9th, you have Destructive Wave and Insect Plague, which isn't necessarily a bad spell. I'm not trying to knock it. However, if you're lightning, thunder, lava, tsunami type guy, whatever the aesthetic you're kind of reaching for with your god, an insect plague is very 12 plagues of Egypt more than maybe the pagan badass you're going for.
Yeah, that it kind of had me reminded of Moses a little bit, just like
right.
Yeah.
and by the way, I think people can absolutely have a good time with those spells. There's more than enough you can bite your teeth into with that. In Xanathar's Guide to Everything and Princes of Apocalypse and all the new spells that we've gotten since the release of this first book, I've noticed that there are some other spells that a person could immediately go to their DM and be like, hey, can I use this? Can I use that as an exchange for the DM? So there's things like Control Winds, Erupting Earth, Maelstrom, Storm Sphere, which is a storm of, it's exactly what it says it is. Thunderstep.
Sphere Storm.
Yeah, Sphere Storm, Storm Sphere, whatever it is. And Tidal Wave. So I've noticed that this has been a remedy on Reddit and YouTube that people say, hey, just use Xanathar spells instead. I think that might be the way to go. And there's a lot more variety for you to maybe focus your Tempest domain to a certain place.
Yep.
I think having that workshop with your DM is great. And check first with them before you do it, of course. I do know people who switch out their spells and don't tell the DM, and then you're in the middle of a session and it's like, what? What do you mean you got that? So do yourself a favor, go to your DM and say, I'm switching out these spells for Tempest Cleric, and I'm really interested. Look through Xanathar's Guide. There's a lot there. and I think you will enjoy it.
Yep.
I do think, however, that when it comes to role-playing, there is a lot of options with Tempest Cleric that a lot of people don't see. Destructive Storms is something that can take a lot of different forms and shapes. And throughout history, there has been a very large, I guess you can say, historic prevalence to royalty when it comes to deities of storms. Storms have always been the wrath of the gods, and storm deities are usually the king of the gods or close to that. Some form of royalty. Storms are something that people have feared throughout time. So when you're playing a Tempest deity, oh my God, domain, you're God. Congrats. I mean, that's Stormborn ability later on. Holy shit.
Yeah. That makes you sub-deity at that point. But yeah,
at least a fucking superhero. And by the way, later on, flight becomes a big deal. So I really think that that's a great ability.
Yeah.
What I'm getting at, of course, but roleplay wise, I've seen Tempest Clerics used well, and I've seen them used, we'll say, not up to their potential. So I'm about to give you the tale of two Stormageddons. There is great Stormageddon, and then there is lacking Stormageddon. And I'm going to give you...
Mageddon?
Huh?
Just Mageddon?
Mageddon? Mageddon? Yeah. So let's start with Stormageddon before we get to Mageddon. Okay. So... first is Stormageddon. I was playing a campaign, a long-term campaign, with a guy who went Tempest Cleric. He was playing a huge orc, badass Tempest Cleric who had this kind of spin on Grumpsh, that Grumpsh, the orc god, was a storm god instead of the classic war god. We all said, fine, gods can have multiple angles. Nobody here is really going to debate orc theology. I thought the Tempest Cleric was just going to be this guy knocking heads. But since he had this affinity to Grumpsh, he suddenly had this weird way of going about interactions, which was very reserved and very righteous. And he would approach a person and he would basically interact with them very, very hospitably and respectfully, because he knew that anybody he touched, he could immediately smite with lightning. And by the way, when you call down lightning onto your weapon, immediately every villager in your yokel town is going to, bow down.
Yeah.
So he was very reserved. He was very smart. He had a great backstory of trying to learn how to respect his awesome power that he's been given to him. Actually, he's one of the only players I know, this one character commanded a weird respect at the table. Everybody looked upon his character and said, holy shit, we need to listen to this guy. And he strangely became the leader of our group.
Cool.
The actual player, he was a trans man, and they wanted to put that into the actual character itself as well. And when that came up as a role play beat, it worked really well. And I think partially because of how well the player jumped into this class and really felt it and worked into its backstory and really worked hard to make that whole class work. So for me, that was one of I've seen a lot of Tempest Clerics. That's on the Mount Rushmore of clerics for me, that player.
Yeah, that sounds incredible, honestly.
Now here's Mageddon. Mageddon was a player that I had the pleasure of playing with, who I won't say is toxic or bad. Like, I think a lot of people in the community have a tendency to label people. I do think those people exist. I think the vast majority of issues DMs and players have against one another is like almost always miscommunication, whether it's expectation or how things should be played or yada yada. Mageddon was a Tempest Cleric who was a Tabaxi, and I have nothing against Tabaxi, but Mageddon was that tabaxi. You know the one.
I know the one.
Ooh woo.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh woo.
Mm-hmm.
I know we were fearful of them earlier. It's funny that we're bringing it all back. Mamageddon, so his character was based on the idea, it wasn't really the will of the gods. His god was the storm, quote unquote, whatever that means. And he tried to roll for every decision that he made because the chaotic whims of the winds of the storm keep switching from north to south. Who knows what I'll do? So he's essentially a chaotic murder hobo. It got really rough because, first of all, we were high level. So immediately it's hard to stop a high level like Tempest Domain Cleric, especially when the rest of the party is pretty good and he was very not good. We were in a town and he rolled something and we're like, what are you rolling? And he goes, just stuff for my character. And we're like, okay, all right, Mamageddon, whatever. And then a little bit later, he tries to kidnap the mayor. And after he kidnaps the mayor, we come in and we're like, hey, let's release the mayor. And he goes, no. And we're like, why? And he essentially says something to the akin of, the storm has called me to do this. And he tried to do the righteous, cool Tempest Cleric thing. But it's very hard to do it when you were a tabaxi who's a Tempest Cleric and your fur color is a light purple with a blue lightning bolt coming down the back. Listen, it's rough. It's rough out there for a pimp. We had to eventually have a real heart-to-heart with this player about this character because he kidnaps the mayor, he eventually scalps the mayor, and then he keeps rolling shit where he was like attacking women and children and burned down a temple to a different deity. My favorite one was when we were fighting, funny enough, a beholder. We were fighting this beholder and he just stops fighting. And we're like, why? You kill women and children, but you can't kill this fucking beholder with us. What's the problem? And he basically goes, the winds tell me no. And we're like, fuck, there goes a lot of damage. So Mamageddon is what happens when a player maybe doesn't really realize what you can do with a full-on Tempest Cleric, I think. I don't know. For me, it didn't suck. It wasn't the worst thing ever, but it's weird because I've seen enough of these clerics and this kind of cleric domain to see what I think people should strive for role-playing wise with their own spin and aesthetic, and where people should actively avoid and walk away from. And again, I'm not calling this player toxic. I'm calling him a fucking furry. So in any regard, it was so bad. Anyways, I think we both have two domains that people can really, really have fun with and have a role-playing experience that is epic. I, for one, did not end up making my normal cleric domain character like I usually every week. My concept that I want to make is that Satyr. There we go.
Satyr.
My Satyr fucking Tempest Cleric to Zeus. I think that would be a lot of fun. And a bit of a party animal, which could be a lot of fun for everybody, not me, but you get it.
Yeah.
Have you played Grave Domain in the past?
I have. And, while talking, I didn't prepare a Tempest Domain character at all, but I had a really ingenious idea while we were talking.
Go for it.
And bear with me. All right?
Yeah,
it's going to be weird at first. Psycho Mantis.
Go on.
All right. You are smiting people. You're dealing lots of damage. You're pushing them around, right? You're flying, right?
Of course.
Psycho Mantis, of people who are maybe unfamiliar, Metal Gear Solid series, Psycho Mantis is basically like a human with this crazy amount of telekinesis power that is able to like float around, move furniture around, stuff like that. While it's not like an exact fit. Maybe you could flavor all of these storm things as like psychic blasts or, psychic damage, or just that there's intense sounds or flashes that hurt people that way. So that'd be an interesting way to flavor it. I mean, I'm just thinking of like, what wild way could you take this? It would take a lot of flavoring, right? I understand that.
Sure.
And you're moving away from the Tempest god, storm god, volcano sort of realm and going into like the telekinesis power sort of thing. But I think that'd be an interesting way to take it if you can work with your DM and convince them of that.
And I mean, the Tempest Domain is raw god power and, packed in. That is basically the domain is raw might of elemental majesty. Yeah. So I think when you look at it, there's a way to reflavor it or skin it in such a way that can fit a lot of different variables. Mm-hmm. A god of storms could be good, bad, neutral, or otherwise.
Yeah.
There isn't really a set for what a storm god has to be. Mm-hmm. And probably something I should mention that is fucking fantastic is the fact that there's so many now magic items that are elemental base, whether it's the lightning javelin or maybe an orb of destruction. There's 1,000 different things that you can get your grubby little hands on.
Absolutely.
Especially if you go through something like Princes of Apocalypse, it's all elemental fighting. You can have a lot of fun and maybe fall yourself into one of those primordial elemental evils and just follow them.
Yeah.
Be of Ol Hydra or something akin to that.
Yeah.
And those different gods and ancients have different viewpoints and perspectives. So from a role-playing standpoint, I think you're in safe hands.
Yeah.
And that is also true of course, the Grave Domain, whom I am excited to make one. I think I'm going to make one.
Absolutely. Yeah. I played a Grave Domain once before, so I don't get to play much. I know I'm a fighter, but technically I'm a fighter that runs D&D much more than he actually goes out and fights. But I've done a Grave Domain once. He had a shtick. I don't always have characters that have like a single thing that they follow, but he basically did not heal people until they were down, right? I wanted to take maximum effect of that, and I thought it'd be interesting to just make it a rule, right? That made combat engagements really interesting because he had to make sure that he stayed alive, right? So that he wasn't putting other people in danger, because if the Grave Cleric has 1 hit point and everyone else has 2 hit points, that means he's not healing people. So that could be a really dangerous thing. But it made those kind of engagements really interesting. So it wasn't just a cleric running around bashing people in the head and then healing, people on the side. It was like, no, his main thing's going to be very support based. I liked him. I liked playing him. I liked being kind of this, mediator of death. And I appreciated the playstyle that he had on a mechanics level. So really do recommend Grave Cleric. They're definitely very interesting.
All of our lovely domains are special in their own little way.
They are.
And I'm pretty sure if we keep doing this mini series, by the time we finish it, there's going to be new domains we're going to have to cover.
Absolutely.
I think that's just going to happen right before the end.
Well, I think we're about either a third of the way through or half the way through.
I want to say it's something akin of the third. I think doing 2 an episode makes the most sense. To get through them and get from A to B. But I really do enjoy talking about these different domains.
I do too.
And I'm wondering after clerics if we do a different class or something akin to that. I'm looking at you, druids and wizards, but maybe fighters. We could go into your backstory. Fighters have a lot of things going on.
Yeah, they do. And I think wizards, too, like you have the different schools of magic, but there are schools of magic that get looked over a lot, like divination. I think gets looked over a lot, and I've been playing a divination wizard, and I have a pretty strong case of why they are super OP. But that's just me.
I've heard a lot of things against and pro divination wizards, so that's interesting.
Okay, yeah. Well,
that's our podcast. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Thank you, Doc, for sitting down with me.
You're welcome.
We are going to be dipping now. Watch out for the Undertaker. Bye-bye.
No! You've just been listening to DumpStat, a podcast presented by Horizon Kingdoms. Horizon Kingdoms is a Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition server that's free to play. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, and join up on Discord to join in on a new adventure. For more DumpStat, be sure to find us on your favorite podcast platform and subscribe.